Sí, sí. Sí. Sí, sí. Amics i amigues, si voleu anar seient, sisplau, amb un minut comencem.
Are in a minute. Take a seat, please. And will be a victory. This seminar has been organized by people from Syriza, the radical left in Greece, Izquierda Unida, Iniciativa per Catalunya Verds, and Esquerra Unida Alternativa. But we is with social organizations well known here in Catalonia and in Spain, and also with activists, people with a long experience in social activism all around Europe, meet to have a say and to south of Europe into a proposal and into a proposal for a program. The meeting of green and red, biggest that has in the recent years. And I would like you to introduce three people going to take the floor. If you need translation, you know that at the back of the room you have the headset. You can pick them up. We will have the pleasure to listen first of all to Aleka Kaselupou, who is going to talk on behalf of Syriza. And Caio Lara is here, and he's going about left party Verds. On the 25th, on the 25th, the victory is possible. But you have the opportunity and the hope, at least for several hours. Thank you very much, and I'll give the floor to Aleka.
Friends We are very happy and overwhelmed to be here. Thank you for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to share together with you these moments, 2 days in Greece that constitute one of the most important moments in modern Greek history. It is Greece's moment as well as Europe's Greek moment. The outcome of the election will, with your help, not only change the situation in Greece, but for the whole of Europe. It is through forums and meetings like this that we have strengthened our position, formed alliances, and have succeeded in changing not only the way, but the elections in Greece are close to and are about Europe's future direction. As said the other day, we must end the forces of progress and democracy change Europe. It will be Marine Le Pen and her far left the agenda was upgraded but desperately necessary. It must question the dominant model of growth, productivism, the ideology of perspective. Fifth, masses, the victims of the memoranda, the accept or Western Macedonia, 70.6% are a lot closer to us than the Kali or we are strongly aware that your support and solidarity strengthen and inspire us, and this gives us this goes. And of course, your support will be of extreme importance. Comrades, at this crucial moment, we all very well know that if the victims of the memoranda aren't the winners on Sunday, and we are not able to transform the fear into hope and poverty into a life of dignity, then it will not be repeated. People have accepted the failures of capitalism as common practice. Capitalism can fail 100 times, but socialism only once. So it is the duty of all of us in the left, here in this room and all around Europe, to the majority of people that what we are saying is a commitment. Our future depends on the consistency of the actions and the speed and on the degree in which we involve the people and the people's interested. We all have to clearly state who a government of the left should work for, what the class character of our program is. And to conclude, an alliance of the Southern Europe countries which are suffering the same problem the same reasons, is a crucial step to start changing the balance of forces in Europe. Unity of the forces of the radical left and ecology on European left is necessary to create a unified movement against neoliberalism and brutality. We have reached the point where the fight will either be European and global, or it will not be. The victory will either be European or it will not last. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes.
Good evening. Good afternoon. This first South European Forum has a background because we've met before in the European Union, particularly in the countries of the Europe. Working class, popular classes in the south of Europe are being attacked to all our labor, social, civil rights, democratic rights. Union, social movements, platforms, and I think that another wall is possible. It's an all saying, but it means a lot. We by our way of thinking, our culture. That it's urgent to have in Europe and particularly in Greece and in Spain also and in the rest of countries in the south of Europe. So this is not going to be the first forum. Probably there will be forums like this one in the future in order to specify the different proposals. But proposals are void if they are not taken to government and if they don't have a practical application, if people cannot feel and experience proposals. And it's important to be here today, and we need other people because we have common features in our countries, and these features have to do with our public debt, which is sometimes more than our public accounts deficit, high unemployment, particularly in Greece, and we have the highest unemployment rates in Europe, high interest rates drowning some countries, the right inequalities, the degradation of environment, poverty, with humanitarian crisis that we're experiencing in our countries. And it has to do also with the kidnapping of our democracy. Our democracy has been kidnapped, and we are fully aware democracy is in the hands of those who are the ruling power, people we never voted for, technocrats from the European Union, and common problems such as unfair taxation. So here, having a look at the round table, we are going to talk deeply, in depth about things that concern us, and we are reach important conclusions that we can put into in the Barcelona Declaration, and other declarations will join the declaration in order to be implemented in different states. This is the reason of this forum. We have to generate left alternative in order to confront neoliberal from the right, because politicians have renounced social democracy and have gone into very hard policies in the European Union. So it is our duty to bring hope to people suffering right now in our countries. 5 years ago, we said that we all were Greece, After 5 years, the situation in Greece has worsened. Poverty in the streets. I was yesterday in Athens, in Patra, 2 days ago. It has 220,000 inhabitants. It's an industrial city, and now they have 50% unemployed inhabitants. So it's possible to move forward. Governments and memorandums have brought the country to a complete failure, and Syriza, the left party, is the hope for people. And it's not sure, it's not certain, but I hope that on the 25th, Syriza can make it to power. Now we are discussing if Syriza will have an absolute majority to rule and to implement the political program and to start the fight with big powers of Troika who are hampering the development of population. The only fear is to see how the wages go down by 40%, not being able to buy drugs in the pharmacy or to depend on social help. People, the GDP has gone down by 25%, unemployment 26%, humanitarian crisis unprecedented in history, and the biggest debt among countries. This is why we think that Syriza has to win on Sunday. So, as they say, hope can reach all coins of Europe. And in the panels, we are going to discuss about Greece's needs that are related to debt, investment, and credit. We are going to talk probably this afternoon or latest news. So we are here to show our solidarity with population in the south of Europe, with the working class, with the class that suffers the most, and in order alternative to have more hope. And this is how we are going to proceed as long as we are alive. And I would like to make a remarks at national level, Spanish level, that are related to what's happening now. First is corruption. Corruption is part of these European policies. And we have known today that Mr. Bárcenas, who's been in prison for, and we have said that in the Popular Party headquarters in Madrid, we all knew that there was corruption and black money. Well, now no minister, no one from the government has resigned. And this is a mockery for the population. It is said that they had 18 million in black money in the Popular Party and no one had resigned. So we want the government to give explanations about this. Mr. Rajoy has to explain before the parliament what has happened. And I'm sure that we are not going to be convinced by his explanation. And I think he should resign. But we have time for his action. Bárcenas, Mr. Bárcenas, for the Popular Party is like a wolf. You don't know what you have to do with it, if keep it with you or. And the second remark, it has to do what we are saying about neoliberal policies. This is a plundering. Rajoy is implementing his program, but he's plundering the state against trade unions, the general interest of the state. They have the population when they decided to privatize 49% of AENA, which was a company with, and they have privatized it to their friends so they can lay off people and speculate with the life and the hope of people. So it's a government which is stealing and plundering the wealth, privatizing and sacrificing or putting in the development of our country. And I think this has also happened in Greece, or is related to. And we hope that Greek people will vote for Syriza, because for the first time they will have a left alternative government which will bring hope to the country, and then hopefully the hope will extend and spread to other countries in South. Thank you.
Molt bé, doncs com diu el Caio, moltes gràcies i bona feina.
Thank you, Caio. He started his presentation by saying that this is the first forum, but this is not the first time. It's the first time we all meet, so many organizations from Southern Europe, political, green, social associations meet. This is the first time. But it's not work together, because we've been working together for quite a while, and probably in recent years had to learn to work together and up things together. So started a few years back, as I said, and we that it's a very important collaboration due to here and European countries. We are the same political, our vision of the world, but we share, as Aleka and Caio have said, vision of the. We share the idea that austerity has failed, that the crisis is a scam, and we share also the capacity to oppose the crisis, because neoliberals have designed this crisis in order to condemn us to become an unequal societies where we lose our jobs, to see our wages low, fear of seeing our children go abroad in order to find a job, the fear of thinking that maybe we don't have a pension, fear of losing our house. So fear is an indispensable tool, and we want to fight back fear and the precarity that is linked to the fear. We hear that now things are getting better. We don't think so. Growth. Well, growth doesn't bring justice, or they are talking also about the growth. Well, we must say that resources have a environment is important. So as it has been said by Aleka, we have to take into account the environment dimension, the social dimension. Now we have paid the financial losses, bailout become or are enshrined institutions, welfare state. In the neoliberal design of our society, women continue to be replace policies, and we, with our life, we will continue to be in our predetermined design. We are going to consequences. As it has been said, governments, majorities in parliaments, we can talk about President Rajoy, some people have helped they use the crisis to implement certain policies. We talk about sovereignties in Catalonia, but taken away the sovereignty over our lives and over our futures in order to determine the kind of we are fighting against these policies and all these situations, and this is the points we share when we start this first forum of the south of Europe. And another thing that unites us, it's the capacity we've had to resist, and we wanted to show how this austerity wasn't a good thing, how this didn't have the goal to have fairer policies, but the ultimate goal was to change our rights in order to the same people that are getting richer and richer. This is the ultimate goal of the we have been back. And we want to build something, and this is what we can do in build something. Was saying, try to implement policies in order to change the life of people. This is why we are so happy to welcome all of you to this forum in Barcelona. Here in Barcelona, the economic, social, and democratic emergency or urgency have turned us into more ambitious and generous people. And not only in Greece, we are going to have seeds for a better future, but also in Barcelona, we are going to start and work for a new future, because we have the capacity to resist, to fight back, and this gives us the strength to think about new proposals, to give alternatives. We are fully convinced that in Greece, you are going to start changing the situation on Sunday. You are going to be the other rebellions. Here we are going to start to rebel also. Thank you.
Bé, moltes...
Okay, thank you very much, Dulos. Thank you very much, Caio. I think in your folders you have the timetable and the development of the different workshops. Just to tell you that now we are going to start the first block, which is called of social and environmental development, debt, austerity and economy for politics, people and the environment, moderated by my colleague Maite Mola, with the intervention of Alberto Garzón, Laia Ortiz and Yanis Milios. Okay, you have the floor.
No, me da igual, me da igual. Ya me va bien. Os dejo ahí el verde.
Laia, ¿hablas tú primero o habla Alberto primero?
Lo que queráis.
Yo prefiero que hables en medio, por eso de
Ah.
tema de género.
Vale. Vale.
Y yo, the last one, okay?
The last one.
Yes, so everybody is
The last is always the best, you know.
the last one.
The last
The last but
The
not
last but not least. Okay, llamas a las filas. Vale.
Vale.
Nos sentamos en
Las
medio
dos en
tú y yo.
medio. Muy bien.
¿Pones a mi lado, Alberto?
Perfecto.
Yo, aquí, ¿no? Obedezco.
Tú ponte a mi derecha. Que me hace
Queda,
ilusión.
queda un poco raro. Venga, gracias.
Vale, entonces llamo a la fila 0 para empezar, ¿no? ¿De acuerdo? Ok. ¿Empiezo? ¿Puedo? Buenas
Thank you.
tardes.
Good afternoon, Oitan. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, in this case, you for your presence here on behalf of the Left European Party. I would like to thank my colleagues, my comrades, who have come not only from the south of Europe, but also from the north of Europe. I see a colleague, Finnish colleague there, and a German colleague also, who have come here to participate with us in order to build what the four speakers who have talked before us, our four colleagues, to build something which does not stay in what we are doing today, but something for the future. First of all, I would like to call my colleague, Mrs. Romero, Sergio Antonio Fuertes, Carlos Sánchez Mato, Pipo Chivati, Flore Mach, François Gall, Martone, Paloma López, and Fernando Lescano. Please come up to the rostrum to share this session.
Y añado,
And let me add also Potter Romero from the Energetic Model, Sergio Cutillas from the Observatory of Debt and Globalization, Antonio Fuertes, Carlos Sánchez Mato from ATTAC, Acordem, Sánchez Mato, ATTAC Spain, LSI, EQUO, François Gallo, Parti de Gauche, and because he's had problems, Sinestra, and Paloma López, member of the Parliament of Izquierda Unido, and Fernando Lezcano, responsible for organizations of Comisiones Obreras. Apologies if I did not names correctly, she said. And without further ado, because we don't have much time, because we're running quite late, like everybody from the south, very typical, I will give the floor to the first speaker. I will introduce one by one my comrades, and they will take the floor. So first of all, I'm going to give the floor to the one on my right from a geographic perspective, not political, who is Alberto Garzón Espinosa, who is the Spanish Communist Party. He's a colleague of Izquierda Unida. He's also economist. He's author of many articles and co-author of books and publications, and he's by Malaga of the Popular Left, secretary of the constituent process of Izquierda Unida. And I would also like to highlight in this special case the very important work he has done on things related to debts and transatlantic treaty. So Alberto, you have the floor. Microphone, no. Now, yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, we can hear him. Thank you very much, Maite, to all of you for being here. I think it's a very necessary meeting, this type of necessary. Because I don't have much time, I have to be precise and concise, even if I leave some elements out of my talk. But I think that the panel and all the interventions are going to be enough in order to offer you an to the model which is being implemented right now. Let me start, first of all, to Maite. Please, with time, because I tend to speak a lot. Let me start by telling that what's at stake in Europe, work of the European Union, what's at stake of forces in the national parliaments, that there are some objectives in Europe. The closest one is in Greece next Sunday, so we give them as much support as we can. We have even started this platform of support to the Greek people and this support to Syriza, which we introduced weeks ago with great support thanks to parliamentarians and public figures of all solidarity. But it's very important to point to the fact that what's at stake is not only that, but the order. We are implementing a new social order in the whole of the European Union, which will save from its own crisis thanks to proposals which transform the way we live. Highlight that now that the Troika, with the complicity of the national governments, is applying very measures of the public sector, taking away from people their capacity on their own lives and public resources, also their own democratic instruments. And this happens, this Troika, which is based in precarity and privatization, in difficult neoliberal, which will even make even worse the citizens' conditions. This is already happening in some countries, and they want to give new model of society. And they said that these policies of the Troika are justified because we have two models in Europe. The first model is the German one, the successful one, and the other model is the model of the South, which would be a failure. And this is applied to in a very dramatic way, such as in the field. For example, they say they don't work enough, and therefore they need good political measures in order to corruption in Spain. But these are not the main causes of what's happening now. Because what we see now is the failure of the European Union, the way it has been designed. That is to say, there is no good and bad models. Model. Germany was growing because they needed the South to grow in an opposite direction, such as Greece and Spain have done. And this, in economic terms, has been into imbalances of the accounts. We imported much more than we exported, but the North exported much more than what they imported. And this lack of balance had contributed to this bubble in Spain. And this explains the reasons of the crisis. Before, we were saying that we have gone through a very specific South. Spain, since we joined the European Union, this industrialization process, we have changed our productive structure. Nowadays, in Greece, the weight on manufacturing processes on the total is 10%, in Spain 17%, Germany 23%. The weight of back of industrialized activities have dropped. This degree of competitive advantages, Spain and Portugal have a peripheral role to play depending on some economic powers of the North. But it's also important to point to the fact that what do we want to build as a society, as an economy? We should say the weight of high and medium technology is 1.5. So their exports, their industrial low, medium low technology, because and medium high technology is 1.5 in Spain, 1.5 in Germany, of 11%. And this is where we find the explanation. The highly specialized industries of Germany, high added value products, which represent better working conditions than the ones that we have in productive structures, such as the one of Spain, very much tourism-oriented, precarity-oriented, and these trash contracts, contracts by hours, unstable contracts, lack of certainty, and therefore the neoliberal interpretation, which means to lower the of the South in order for us to be more competitive, is a fallacy. It's not going to work. What it does is to increase the social gap in the South. In our the solution goes through rebalancing the weight of productive structures between the North and taking into account which are going to be explained in this forum For example, the environmental criteria, labor criteria, financing aspects. But it's also important to defend that fact from the very beginning, the fact that says that in Spain what are defects due to high salaries. That's not true. It's not a question of having high salaries and the solution doesn't go through labor reforms such as the ones approved by the Popular Party. Our salaries to export cheaper products. This crisis. This is the path to the disaster. This is why austerity measures are not working in Greece, the south of Europe, Spain, or Portugal. Best said, they're only working for a minority of the population, which is getting richer. We have to take this economic problem into account. It's the social political problem. The lack of political stability is due to an economic instability. Only by reading the economists will we understand the political results. There is a main mistake in the design of the European Union. The European Union has the romantic union of Europe, a union of the banks and transnational companies which have designed the architecture of the European Union, the treaties, legal framework, in order to benefit the big financing and non-financing entities. This is lies, and this is where we have the need to this problem. So this productive structure is what we have to solve. We have to think about how to organize ourselves from an economic perspective, to ask ourselves, what are we going to produce? How are we going to distribute this? How are we going to consume it? And not only from an economic point of view, we are talking about the price of energy, ecological, gender, the model of society that we want for the future. This is why I want to invite not to think about the next elections, but the next generations, because the social order that we are building is not in the short term, we're thinking about the long term. So we have to pay attention to all these questions from now. And I think that we will be, because we are historical opportunity and we have the problem. Question of changing governments, but systems. And in order to change the systems, we have to be aware of the fact that we want to do it. So we dates like this one, which will be very helpful. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Albert. Thank you very much, Alberto. It is true that one has to remind him of the time, but it's worth listening to him. I would like to use this opportunity to introduce my left and to thank Iniciativa por Catalunya Verds for the good work they've been doing for the previous months, because preparing today's forum has been down many months. I would like to take advantage of this opportunity to thank you, because of course, Esquerra Unida and Alternativa, you've done a wonderful job. Thank you very much, comrade. Thanks to all of you. It's very complicated to introduce Laia, degree in political and economic science, who's been working in politics for so long, because she belonged to the Juventudes already, and I think that we have to recognize everything she in the field of women, and the feminist women here would do such an important job, because Alberto has already mentioned the two women, and as you know, she's been a Catalan member, European member, and she's parliamentarian of the Plural Left, plus responsible of international relations, spokesman of Initiative Verds. Laia, you have the floor. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great honor for the whole team of my party to be able to organize such a forum. I think that all of you, we know that solutions should not be individual unilateral decisions, and that's why it's very important to have process of coordination and complexity, because in the end, we have to expose the ideas of Europe. A panel like this one will give thought for a week, and when I saw that Alberto and Janis were, I thought they would talk about it, but let me tell you that the meeting in which the left, the environment, social organizations think about solutions, we understand there are some urgent solutions. The weight of debt, the urgency of liquidity, how do we rescue from a social point of view the classes. This is an immediate emergency, but on the same priorities, we should know how to spend, where do we spend, and what economic model we want to build, because unless we have the same, we will make the same mistakes. And the questions and the reflections to translate here are fundamental when it comes to approaching the short term, or how do we solve the problem of debt, which is non-financial problem, but a democratic problem in itself. Neoliberalism has forgotten of economy. One of the definitions of economy is the way to satisfy human needs through available resources, which are always limited. We all agree that if there is something the economy is not doing, is to satisfy human needs. We produce and consume many things which are not necessary for life, but we are deprived of other things which are necessary for people, and austerity in this. And if it does not take into account is that the material resources are limited, so the expansive dynamics of the system, and when it comes to choose between human life and economic, they have chosen human benefits. This is something to take into account if we want to design a solution not only to this crisis, but the economic system which is endangering not only this question of inequality, but the civilization, the whole of civilization. Let me play some specific, but I think that this had of the things that we have to take into account is the systemic crisis, which is climatic and energetic. Keynesianism in the 21st century, classic of incentivizing demand, which require growing needs of material resources. Can we use recipes in an unequal world where labor is the only instrument of redistribution, when we're in the middle of problem in society? Or should we instruments of redistribution of this economy, which is getting more and more unequal with growing? Is it useful to go to a developing logics based on the idea of cheap fuel? Now fuel is cheap, or cheap energy. Is it going to be useful in order to survive? I think that it is not right to think about solutions based on what's valuable for economy. Of course, there are some non-remunerated jobs which are fundamental for economy of care. How do we those who are dependent from us, and the austerity is doing without a high importance of these activities. Having said that, 5 questions, key questions, in order to think about the response which should approach the left and ecology. On the one hand, the diagnosis of this European crisis, a fundamental question which is talking about responsibilities and shared responsibility. Alberto was saying that causes and solutions. We should have a different perspective compared to the some countries have spent more than what they could spend, especially in public services. This is completely false. Not imbalances of this crisis has to do with investing too much in public services. Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Ireland. We have to take into account that the responsibilities of this imbalance are shared. The north of the European Union started in Germany when an excess of savings injected credit to the economies of the south, increasing the bubbles of our productive system. Second question, when we talk about solutions and shared responsibilities, that means talking about debts. And talking about debts mean to audit, to have a transparent perspective how this debt was. Here we see some multiple products. Milos will talk, and we should talk legitimate and legitimate. Who pays for the cost of each one of the solutions that we are going to introduce? And this is very important to know when do we pay, how much do we pay, or who gets the cost of this solution. But on the other hand of this liquidity, we should decide in which are we going to invest once we have liquidity. A monetary policy cannot be separated from a fiscal common policy. This is fundamental, and this is a big imbalance of the European Union, which has questioned the institution. And we have to think about European sovereignty, paying attention to the singularity of each one of, not to talk about authoritarian federalism, but we need sovereignty from a European level. If we want fiscality, we fight against fraud in a global economy, we need a political Europe. We don't have a political Europe, and this is why we have political problems in our institution. Of course, we have to run away from this Juncker affirmation saying that Greece prefers well-known faces, and when they think that these programs cannot be fulfilled. This is not a political union. This is a bribe within the same institution, and this is what the European Union is saying. The European sovereignty, but also democracy, proximity democracy, reinforcement of territorial organization, and proximal and local participation, and this is what we should talk about. Second question, economy for the citizens requires more regulation and intervention. If a crisis has proven something, is that the chaos comes from deregulating. We are deprived, thanks to the European policies, of capacity to talk about energy, water, basic services, and then the financial system completely deregulated, causing the economic disaster. If there is something we should learn, it's something that we have to regulate. We should talk about more than growth, shared prosperity, because there are some absurdity. For example, it makes sense that Spain imports 200,000 kilos of chicken, export 300,000 kilograms of chicken. Does it make sense? Germany will produce solar energy and imports gas from Algeria, and we are using renewable energy, or maybe the infrastructure of security used by maybe in mobility. And I think these are the questions that we have to take into account when we talk about investing. Investing for whom and for what? And this is very important. The decisions made level, they've been of investment of the Juncker plan. A fourth election of basic things such as water and food, and talking about common, where to grow and how to grow. This is where we have to talk about this new Green Pact. This is the transition economy, and this is not green. We have to fly away from this green capitalism. The neoliberal is a pact with all the democracy, with our economy, and how to make our resources available for people. This Europe dominated by oligopolies to economy, serving big corporations and facilitating from institutions institutions, cooperativism, social contracting, and organizations of the workers. And this is where we have a New Deal, that in favor of people. And this is what the Commission wants to do in order to get out of the crisis. I think this is fundamental when we talk about what we do with that. Invest our money. Money is invested in people, taking into account the ecological mortgage that we are dragging.
Bueno, poneros de acuerdo, yo solo modero.
Before giving the floor to our next speaker, we have who is MP in the European Parliament from Portugal. Thank you for being here. And I would like to say also that there has been a political organization in Spain that has worked really hard in order to organize the seminar, even if they are not in party of Spain. We have José Luis Centella, its General Secretary. And I would like to say that last Sunday I was in Barcelona. Well, I was in Sant Adrià de Besòs. I don't know the correct pronunciation. And we chose a new General Secretary, Albert Miralles. Gracias. Thank you, Albert, for being here. And now I'll try to friend, a colleague, Yanis Milios, with whom I've worked a lot. I've known him for many years. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I hope post because Syriza mean that Syriza has won the elections with an absolute majority. Introducing Yanis Milios, it's more complicated because he's an intellectual figure in Europe in the economic field. He's professor at the Polytechnic University in Athens. He has written several books. I don't know if the economic responsible for the economy in Syriza. He's a mechanical engineer also. It's something that has also always puzzled me, being an economist. He's traveled a lot throughout the world, a good internationalist and Marxist. I think he was studying with Papandreou also. And Dimitris Dimoulis and Yorgos Economakis, and you'll excuse my pronunciation of Karmas and the classics. I think that it's a good introduction for my colleague and friend Yanis. So Yanis, you've got the floor, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Maite. I think we are living historical moments, not only in Greece, but all over Europe. Historical moments for the left of the Europe, for the plural left of this country, but not only this, for the people of Europe. And so let's discuss one major common problem that we have. The common problem is austerity, and very close connected with it is the sovereign debt problem. What is austerity? They tell us that austerity is a method to achieve fiscal consolidation. This is wrong. They tell us that austerity is a method to create growth. This has been proven wrong. We tell us that austerity is a method to create jobs. This has also proven to be wrong. In all countries of Europe, South, austerity has created more unemployment, secular stagnation, inflation, and deteriorated the sovereign debt problem. In the case of the South, and especially Greece, we heard already from Caio Clara the effect of austerity. So what is austerity overall? Austerity is a class project, program. Austerity is the method to control wealth and power to hands. Austerity is the process of changing Europe, of destroying the European social model, which has always been the competitive advantage in this area of the world. Austerity is a process of creating, if I am allowed to say this, the white Asian worker in Europe. That is a worker without rights, who has a very low salary, who works overtime and is as a part-time worker and so on. And so we have to stop austerity because we are representing the interests of the majority of the people. And we have to be aware of the fact that the sovereign debt in Europe has been calculated, has been formed in such a way as to function as an austerity trap. The sovereign debt is an austerity trap because the structure of the Eurozone is the role of the central bank, the European Central Bank, is such that the sovereign debt plays this role. The problem is not more countries, same common euro. The problem is that we do not have a central bank which plays the role of a lender in the last resort. Right now, Japan has a sovereign debt of more than 250%. And this sovereign debt is sustainable in the means that it can be serviced because the central bank of the country plays the role of a lender in the last resort. If any country, New Zealand, had decided that is, the elites had decided that the Bank of New Zealand does not directly or lends the state of New Zealand, then the result would be the same as the one in Europe. So we have to tackle the problem of the sovereign debt. We have to restructure it. We have to open it as a European problem. In the case of Greece, if you look at the latest report of the IMF on Greece, you are going to see in table 3 the cash flows, that is, the money the country has to pay under the present conditions in service the debt, that is, to pay the interest. This is table 3. In table 2, you are going to see the primary surplus, that is what is above the revenue that exceeds state expenditure. The primary surplus has to be created in that the sovereign debt is being serviced. And you will realize that this primary surplus from the next year on, something around the double of the cash flow of what they have to pay, because they have agreed, the present government, that the sovereign debt is serviceable, is sustainable, by creating these enormous primary surpluses, which are going to pay not only for the interest, for the debt itself, that is, for the capital of the debt, for the for the debt as a quantity of money. And this is ridiculous if you think of it from an economic point of view, except if you think of it from a class point of view, from the point of view of the elites, of the oligarchy, of big capital, and you are going to see that it's rational in this way, is the role of an austerity trap. That is, if things stay as they are, the government, any government, will have to these primary surpluses, and this is going to deprive the economy and the state of the ability to use the resources of the country to promote growth policies and, of course, social policies. And we have to negotiate on it. We fight in order to change it. We have said a lot of times that we don't want, as a new government, to default. Default is going to be a very severe situation, not only for Greece, but for the whole European Union. It's going to hit the European Central Bank. It's going to hit the credibility of the Union. That's why, to find a solution, there is no other way, full stop. So we have to tackle this major problem. We have from the beginning raised the solution given in the year 1953. At that time, of course, the historical conditions were very different, but there was one common element. The Federal of Germany had been trapped at that time, but by the enormous debt, which was partly created due to the war. So they had to create enormous surpluses, or to forget of sources in order to pay the debt. And Greece belonged to the debtor countries at that time and had agreed to excuse the larger part of the German debt and allow them to be paid under the condition of an export clause, which is similar to a growth clause. So we raised this solution because it has a very high ethical and symbolic value. The issue that we cannot, as European people, as European societies, afford the given sovereign debt with the structure that we have in the Eurozone. And you know probably, or you surely know, that in the 5 years that are going to follow, that is in the period 2015 to 2020, Spain, the Spanish state, is going to have a major problem with the sovereign debt, because more than 50% of the Spanish sovereign debt matures in this short period. So you are going either to pay half of the debt in 5 years, or to let it be by refinancing it through the markets. And you will always be dependent on the markets, and the markets will determine the policies and will keep the interest rates low. Only liberal policies continue. This is their plan. We have to have another plan, and that's why we are talking about a European debt conference, in order to discuss and find a different solution for the sovereign debt overhang in Europe, all over Europe, as we the people, we the European people, to find the alternative solution. The alternative solution has one major characteristic: austerity forever. We have to seek a solution which will allow the of the debt in a way that austerity is no more needed, but a fiscal space is created, which means that progressive governments, left governments, will have the power and the space to promote growth and social policies. And in order to do this, we have to focus on the European Central Bank. The European Central Bank is a constitution of all the European countries. The European Central Bank can play a different role. Imagine that the European Central Bank, under another relation of forces, swaps the servicing of the Spanish debt fully for the 5 next years. That is, the cost, the interest cost and the cost of maturity, of maturing of the Spanish debt for 5 years. And the Spanish people and the Spanish state will not have to pay anything on interest or maturities, but will have this fiscal space to promote policies. And that this solution, 50% plus, is applied reasons of equality in other states. This is going to be a solution which is feasible, it's within the firepower, changes the climate in Europe, and is one possibility of others. So we need to discuss the debt problem. We need to scrutinize the details, that in the technical details the devil lives, as we say in Greece. If you change the technical details a little, one good solution can become a very bad solution. But we have to study it, we have to fight together. It's a common goal, it's a common fight. We have to bury austerity forever, and that's why we have to restructure the sovereign debt problem, the sovereign debt of the Eurozone as a whole. We are together, we fight, and we can win.
Before giving the floor to Flor Celesi, I'm going Lydia Sendra, EMP, to come to stage, please. Remember that you've got 5 minutes. I'm going to give you only 5 minutes. It's a pleasure to be here with you. First forum. I'm going to switch now. I think that if system we have now is the system of the 5 debts. It's an economic. First of all, we all know that we have socialized private losses. We have privatized profits. We have a social debt because the cutback policies would take unemployment, inequalities, precariousness. Other debts have a democratic debt because the power is full of corrupt governments and oligopolies. Energy. We also have a care debt because our capitalism makes invisible the work of caregivers done by mainly. And we have also an ecological debt towards the countries in the south. If in the countries we have a well-being state, it's because we have natural resources from the south. So we have a debt with the nature and creatures in the nature. And we have the future generations because we are jeopardizing future. We could discuss about future generation. My grandparents told me 40 years ago, you'll see in the future. And now it's the future, and we are facing climate, energy, and humanitarian crisis. So we can say it very. It's more than a regime crisis. It's more than an economic. This is civilization. This is why we have to come up with an answer and a solution. And the solution is not austerity growth. Neither of them. Austerity creates more social debt, and growth creates more debt, more economic debt. So we must have a plan, a clear plan in order to provide an answer. And this is called the big ecological and fair of society, based on job creation, but not all sorts of jobs. Green and decent jobs with a social use and with an ecological dimension. And good news are that and go hand in hand. We can create millions of with the help of ecology in Europe and in Spain. 20 million jobs in Europe by renewing buildings, renewable energies, organic farming, and between 2 to 3 jobs related to this sector. In this way, we would redistribute wealth, economic, social wealth. How do we do this? First, having a look at natural resources, social resources, with a maximum income and a minimum wage, and redistributing all work, or rather, all works, either they are productive or reproductive. And it's a challenge, it's a democratic challenge. And we, from different parties, political parties, it's a challenge for companies, and it's a democratic challenge also, because citizenship cover food sovereignty, energy sovereignty, that we can perform social transformation. And thanks to this ecological, democratic, and fair transition, we will build the prosperity and a society in which we can live in the eco. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That now I'm going to give the floor to Sergi Cutillas from the Globalization and Debt Observatory, if my pronunciation is correct. Yeah, you have pronounced it correctly. Thank you. I would like to talk about financial debt. And I say that, as it has been said, this cannot repay the debt. So this idea of European Conference on Debt is a very good. But if this doesn't work, we will have to choose between continuing with austerity or back the debt in a unilateral way. Now the restructuring mentioned, and I talk about restructuring debt. It's a term used by the Monetary Fund, meaning changing old debt by new debt. The vast majority of cases, restructuring the debt has the goal to make the countries keep on paying. In certain cases, as I mentioned, in 1993, some debt was written off. And in this London conference, the conditions, as said, were very favorable, but the conditions were implemented geopolitical conditions because they were beneficial for the U.S. in the war period. Iraq back in 2004, Poland in 1991, after being part of the so favorable cases. In the past 60 years, 600 restructurations of the debt. Other cases very favorable for indebted countries. So we have to Greece now is facing to this situation and is going to negotiate with another party another part that doesn't want Greece to the debt. So we must be aware of this, and we have to prepare a B plan, another plan, a coherent one, because the only way to negotiate with weapons is to have an alternative plan that can work. And the alternative plan, according to our opinion, should be doing audit of the financial situation and not paying hatred debt. We could also claim that Troika, because of the reports they have done, mentioned the treaties and the laws that go beyond the memorandum of the bailout, that violate human rights and go beyond the competencies of the European Union, and bailouts also that respect the principles enshrined in the law and the treaties. We have Argentina, Ecuador, Iceland that it's possible to go beyond. We have to take account these examples in order to go beyond the fear we can experience. Now, Francesco Sinistra Ecologia Libertà. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this important moment. I'm going to stand up, yeah? Thank you. My party is organizing a program where we are going to share the same problems and topics and how to face austerity debt, how to have a production system environment, how to build a political that respects our rights. A few days ago, I was reading data related to what is happening now. Debt is an human and in my country. Official documents of the Commission, the European Commission, austerity has stolen 100 days of life to the next generation, who will 2013 is going to live 100 days less because of the impact of the cutbacks for the ecological impact of the extraction. Climate change. We spend 100 million per year at a global level to explore fossil resources. Nature, that in order to stop the global warming by 2 degrees, we have to renounce the extraction of 82% of fossil resources. Right? And we have this problem. We face the oil extraction. My government, despite all what they said about the debt and austerity, the bailout, the government is tackling labor rights, is opening the Mediterranean Sea to the oil extraction. So refusing financial and ecological debt are very important to build a new policy. It's not possible to impose the payment of a debt. Been said as made in the countries of the south. with the conditions imposed by the Troika, because and democratic Europe, and institutions cannot build this Europe. Our political parties that belong to political families, European, progressive, are starting a common path. We are starting here a common path, opening up in Milan a collective space, in Athens in Monday. And we think that this can be a process in which political parties, social movements can work together. There is a huge also. We are looking at Brussels, Frankfurt to the north, and we have to look to the south, to the sea. 5,000 immigrants have died in recent years in the sea. When we talk about the south, we talk about our south, the unfairness of Frontex, the opening and closing of borders, how we open our borders to goods, them to human beings. So we have an agreement at the Mediterranean level. This is a way to build an alternative to austerity and neoliberalism.
Thank you. Okay, now to Lydia Sendra, member of the European Parliament, left Galician Alternative. By l'altra Europa. She's also going to take place in this debate. Eleonora, you have the floor. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to switch to Spanish because of the interpretation. I was saying that I'm very, very happy to be here because we are trying to design our hopes about what we want the future to be for the European and the citizenship of the South. I think that next 25th, for sure, we will have a bit more of hope, a bit more hopeful, because probably the victory of Syriza will be a point which will strengthen our relations and will strengthen our fight. But also, the hopes and the design that we have for this future is the right and the recognition of the right to decide of the peoples which made up the reality of the Spanish. And for me, and for the organizers and the organization I belong to, is something very important for this future. Second, I would like to propose something which usually stays quite forgotten in the policies, unless it's in order to make it survival even more difficult. We're talking about life, we're talking about future, and there are some key elements in life. One of them is food, and the other one are common goods, such as water, earth, or seeds. And I would like, in this future that we are thinking about, I would like to introduce the concept of fighting for new and agroalimentary policies in the framework of food sovereignty. Before, my colleague Floren has already mentioned this subject, but I would like to go deeper into this problem. And let me tell you that peasant agriculture contributes to society with lots of wealth and richness, with and quality food, preserving the environment and contributing to great and wealth in all the European. Right now, the different agrarian policies are destroying this peasant agriculture. We are facing a couple of challenges from a European perspective. One, the liberal the milk products, and second, negotiations for the Treaty of Free Trade with Canada, which is going to be submitted for ratification very soon, and also with the United States. And thirdly, as far as public goods, I think that Earth right now is also in which socially we should compromise ourselves, because right now the multinationals are trying to gain all over the world, also in Galicia and in the rest of the countries of the South and the European Union, and multinational companies in Canada with gold projects which are trying to occupy hundreds and hundreds of hectares, as happens in Galicia and other parts of Europe. As far as the question of water, it's not only privatization of the management of water, but also the privatization of water as a public good. And in this case, in the case of Galicia, the law acted, and when we completely apply will mean the privatization of. Let me talk about the question of seeds. Seeds right now approved in the European Union a new reglement, a new law clinics.
Autoriza o no.
Genetically modified products, and the reality is that it's going to mean an acceleration, important acceleration of GMOs and authorization of GMO seeds, which will represent in these states where it's going to be approved contamination of agriculture and the way we eat, and the states which do not authorize all these are going to contamination, because there are no barriers which can stop the wind or insect. The reality that we are facing is thirst of control by the transnational corporations. I think I probably won't be time. Maite, my apologies. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Lidia. Muy interesante. Tiene la palabra.
I now give the floor to Antonio Fuertes from ATTAC.
Hola, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Bueno, yo recuerdo.
On behalf of ATTAC, we have to talk about fiscal and the need to adopt some measures to end with them in Europe. Fiscal paradises and European paradises, so I would read it. The European Union has been built as finance without any regulating authority, therefore, and control. For the Europeans, they don't have any merits, leaving aside the financial system in the hands of markets. Common neoliberal policies have been signed and ratified by the states, and they have prescribed the absolute freedom in the movement of capitals outside the European Union. At the same time, those policies, the opaque activity of fiscal paradises of the European environment, with the states at the disposal of global finance and powers. These fiscal paradises Union vulnerable, reducing through policies, generally abusive things, and allowing the bank to be outside supervision, provoking the financial terrorism and crime. The Union does not react and does not control the sovereignty power, making this opacity of fiscal paradises. The fiscal paradises, and does not regulate with the other 7 territories of the European economic space, signing preferable agreements at the same time in an unfair way with the rest of the countries. They have only one aim: to make the European Union in the hands of transnational. These policies have very negative consequences for the member states. possibilities to satisfy the demands of the citizens. Fiscal paradises mean an obstacle for the European construction, democratic Europe. Therefore, a political fight for their eradication is very necessary. All the governments of the European Union and the European Union, the legality of the legal order which host the banking and the special vehicles as legal entities in the hands of mobile services. European citizenship cannot do anything about this loss of economic and social rights due to the crisis, and they have to realize in Europe in order to the base, which is the reason for the loss of rights, imposing themselves to the sovereignty of some countries. Fiscal paradises are, together with the development, the speculation of public debt for the saving of finance systems and system privatization of the banking system and the attack to fiscal systems and weapons of mass destruction and the in Europe, and does not allow this building of Europe. Governments chosen by should legislate avoiding disaster policies from the summit of G20 in London with the pretext to implement these measures, have made mockery on the citizenship, making possible these territories to disappear, the list of fiscal paradises of the OECD. Organized society should ask the different policies to deploy the flag against fiscal paradises in the European Union and organize themselves to introduce some measures. Measures are the following. Parties of the European left should defend the company against fiscal Europe, and the European society should organize itself. Sharing secret should be an imperative, and the European Union has to reconsider the preferential approach towards these countries. Without any doubt, we should introduce in the political agenda of Europe the need to reach bilateral agreements of exchange of information from the European Union, from these territories, and the different should be able to gather the information according to their democratic functions. We should actively promote a debate for the change of the accounting methods, making it possible for societies to declare their benefits. Governmental authorities and fiscal paradises should promote legislative measures, so from the administration we should not contract those companies who are present in fiscal paradises. If this is interpreted as a fiscal union, we should establish fiscal agreements and the European economic space. That's impossible with fiscal paradises. The fight for the evolution of finance, it's an ecological social imperative and issue. Well, thank you very much. So, send us the text you have read in order to because it's very useful. It will be very useful. People who are here have this text, and we would like to read it, be able to share our comments with you. Thank you. Now we give the floor to Paloma Lopez, European parliamentarian from the GUGE and the Plural Left. Thank you, Maite. You look like the chairman when he gives us a minute to express in 1 minute, and then you stop us with the microphone. Well, first of all, congratulations for organizing this seminar. I think let me talk about labor, of course, but I would like to start by talking about what reads the commissions, and we present alternatives. We have many. We reach the European Parliament in the working commissions, we present them, and they say they are not realistic enough. And why does this happen? Because we are only working with a single framework, the neoliberal framework, and everything outside this neoliberal framework is outside what they call realistic, what can be applied, and what can be done. Therefore, all of us who are outside this framework, we are outside the system, and we become something else. But of course, not the ones who have an alternative or a way out of the society we are living. And we have to say, we have to talk about neoliberalism, we have to say that these neoliberal policies are a monument to the lack of coherence. There is no money for people, but there is money for the banks. We cannot spend in public services, but we subsidize private management. Increase of VAT, but is still increasing. And all this, of course, from very perfect economic and social, although they say political actors are the ones planning. But there is a common element in the dictatorship of the markets and the troika and this neoliberalism, which means concerted strategy against work, labor, against fair employment, and against the organization of workers who guarantee these rights. Labor reforms and employment are weapons in which we concretize the attack against labor with a clear unfulfillment of the International Labour Organization. We are not going to see in the next Treaty of Free Trade one of the things which this free trade agreement between the United States and the European Union should include is the relaxation of labor normative. The United States have not signed 70 agreements with the ILO, among them the right to negotiation of free association to trade unions and conciliation, family work and professional, etc. And here I'm referring to elements in which we are going to have many problems, but of course we will have to fight against them. We have to develop a strong campaign. To turn into something precarious is to make the workers lose control of the situation. Employment is not a guarantee of anything. It's decentralized. Decisions are made who do not respond to people of the serious consequences of the result of a crisis. Going back to the situation before, we have transformed, we have to get out of the framework and to think about an alternative that goes through recovering democracy, solidarity, employment, and social rights. We have to reinforce where we come from the left and the working majority. That's why our alternative is reindustrialization, the public services, creation of quality employment, and employment is created and shared by putting the economy at the disposal of the employees. And let me conclude by mentioning the professor of, you can go into his blog and you will see it, but let me end up with a sentence which says, time has come for hope because the future has a name: dignity, justice, and democracy. This is what the different people require now. Thank you. Thank you, Paloma. I didn't say anything. I didn't dare to say anything, although I've thought about saying anything. And now I give the floor to Cote Romero, a platform for a new model. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And congratulations for organizing this session. I'm not going to cover the analysis because it coincides with everything that's been said so far. We are far from the Europe of people's solidarity. We have the Europe of capital, the Europe which has tried only from a Democrat. It's not only an attempt on political, social, economic sovereignty system. I think that the real sovereignty that we have to is the sovereignty of peoples, communities, against the power of the big corporations. And this is why from our platform, model, we are actively working in the necessary and urgent energetic transition, and of course 300 organizations working actively. Izquierda Unida, Iniciativa per Catalunya, Alternativa Verda, Xunta, Progress, many organizations I see here, social organizations, civil ones, all types, working from the university in collaboration and cooperation together for energetic transition. It's a paradigm as far as energy, and it has a contagious effect in Europe. Big corporations, companies, they've made mistakes, and they make some forecasts which were not precise, and they are, although the citizenship doesn't know, the energetic alternative based on saving sources, clean sources, is more complex. This is the capital, and this has a tremendous importance because besides the importance of energetic transition, which means that we have to work on this energetic management. Citizens from Greece or Italy or Spain compete with a big energetic corporation, and this is why police, because they're afraid to lose their dominance and their dominant position they've had all the time, they have been able to dominate the political power. And the current energetic policy of Spain is of expulsion to energetic alternatives. This is the reality, to expel these alternatives. Place already 5 claims in the mission, adequately progressing, and we have told the different directions that this has a contagious effect, everything which is happening in Spain. And this is what has happened. So we've been working with our colleagues in Greece, because there are also some big corporations in energy. Energy is fundamental. Energy is what moves our society. Energy, our current energetic model is centralized, dirty, dangerous, pollutant, and generates inequalities, goes against the human rights, where we get our energetic resources and also our societies. You have to conclude. Greece, we have very strong economic problems. Energetic poverty in Spain. 7 million people have serious problems to pay their energy. It's so cold this winter, so many people cannot turn on the heat. This is on the health of people. We, from the citizenship, we have powers, but society. So we are living together, working together with Greece. Monica Franzoni, we're working also with Italy, because we want a Europe of peoples, Europe of solidarity, Europe of solidarity, we're saying, with the people of the countries of the south. We have made them poorer, and this is why energy is very important. So we ask you to include programs to pay special attention to this, because energy is going to regulate this debt. This lack of balance Alberto was referring to, the trade balance, because if you pay attention to the case of Spain, 45,000 million euros. Delirium, we have the sun, the wind, and this is why we have to rebalance our society, making our society fairer and more sustainable. Thank you. To the next speaker, I would like to thank the presence of Vice President of the European Left Party, member of the Parliament, and colleague of the Bloc of the Left. Thank you, Marisa, for your presence here today. So I now give the floor to Ruiz Tavares Libre, member of the Parliament of the Green Party. Thank you very much. And now, after the Portuguese and the Spanish and Catalan, so I'm Spanish. Our heads are full of data, and ideas and proposals. Let me tell you a story and make a brief reflection. Story. The first thing that comes to my mind about the crisis is to be both Portugal, the pigs, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, the pigs. And that made me think about something. There was a where people were transformed into pigs. And this history is part of the book founded by our culture, the culture of Ulysses. Tirce transformed them into pigs, turned them into pigs, and Ulysses retransformed them in human shapes. And what Homero says is that what made them pigs was that they have lost memory. So the first thing that we wanted to say,
no es la deuda que nos ha juntado, no es la austeridad que nos ha juntado a griegos, portugueses.
It's not austerity, it's we were together, and we were together fighting against fascism. Give me a because then I won't have time to say everything I want to say. And here we learn a lesson. A left sectarian which does not talk and work together loses, and united left wins. So before fascism, we socialism with imagination, with creativity, making up trade unions, cooperatives, associations, and we were together. And before, we were together during Ulysses' time, where we found the values of the South and the Mediterranean, which are values of solidarity, travels together, and strength and power. So we should remember these values when we have elections in the land of Ulysses, like Sunday. And anecdote I wanted to reflection. We were called something as periphery, but the periphery. The world does not end at the Mediterranean. Franco already said that. Many people live on the other side of the Mediterranean, and our sacred Mediterranean, although it does not reach Portugal, but it's ours also. So many people every year. And we have to tell the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, the south of Europe is but central, and be the center of next change. We will be the center of the majority movement with Europe. Because if we want the restructuring of the debt, if we want a Green New Deal for the South, which I call the Ulysses Project, if we want universities in the South where people come, people get out in order to work, and where young people can go back, and students can go back, and scientists can go back. If we want democratic Europe, a real European democracy, all this, we have to remember these anecdotes that we live together. We will do it. We will achieve it with solidarity, with memory, with imagination. We've seen that we have a roadmap, which is the Declaration of Barcelona, and we have ideas, causes. We have everything that Alberto, Laia, and Joan, and everybody who has spoken before said. We have causes, we have one that we are building, and now is let everybody know sectarian between the left and green parties, not sectarian with all the lefts we come from, to work together, to be united, and to change. That's what I wanted to say.
Muchas gracias, Rui.
Thank you, Rui. Now we'll give the floor to Carlos Sanchez from ATTAC. Thank you. things have been said that talk about details of restructuring the debt might seem not necessary, but Yanis was saying that evil is in details, and I think there is a Europe. Syriza will have an opportunity on Sunday, and we care about what's done in the future. But the thing is, in favor of whom the restructuring is going to take place. There have been several restructurations, as Sergi has said. What Draghi did yesterday to provide liquidity, but not liquidity that is going to reach the more needed people. This liquidity stays in the financial casino. It's the same circle of people that crisis that is going to make profit of this process. So we have to fight for a real restructuring that is going to favor popular classes, layers, population, even Germans, because as was talking about the periphery. Well, but we have also the German working class, or the Belgian or the Dutch working class in other countries. So what do we have to do when restructuring the debt? Well, we think that lowering interest rates is not enough, or making deadlines, putting off deadlines. That's not enough. Because in Spain, in the last 100 euro of illegitimate debt have been paid. And this makes us think consequences of the debt restructuring that is going to the possible writing off what's going to do with the hyper of our finances, because we are big money. It's not enough to talk about writing off the debt, trying to drown the financial system and then bail with our money. So we have to tackle the real control of finance, of the development bank serving public interest, because it's, as we said before, they are taking advantage of to make profit that is only shared among the shareholders, and it's not shared among society, which is the one supporting the bank. So restructuring has to be done in favor of people. Thank you. I have two more people that we have to talk, and then we'll see what we. It's getting late. Eleonora Florenza. I think it's not the right pronunciation. European MP from Italy, Europa for Città.
Good afternoon to everybody. I think that today and tomorrow is very important to build two things: the opposition Europe and the alternative Europe. I want to start from the opposition. Paloma said which is the situation in the European Parliament. I think that we should build the opposition to the Juncker Europe. For instance, to the Juncker Plan, and also to the working program of this committee. We are discussing in Strasbourg and in Brussels the working program of the Commission, and I think that we should hardly work to build the opposition. Moreover, we should position to the TTIP. That is a very important issue. In these days, in the International Trade Committee, we are discussing about the ISDS clause the possibility to multinational to sue the states, and the name of capitalism. It's another name to say the possibility to undermine rights for workers, to undermine social protection, to undermine environmental protection. That the opposition IP should be of this South Forum. We have said during intervention that austerity is increasing the difference between Northern Europe and Southern Europe. I think that is a very important point, and I agree with Garçon that we should not only build the opposition socialist government, we should also build the alternative. And yesterday in Athens, and yes, we have the feelings of living a very important moment, historical moment. The square was full of Europe and anxious to build the alternative. I think that the Saloniki program is our program, is the program of European left, and we should fight to support Syriza, but also to continue that program in all the countries of Europe, of the Southern Europe. I want to say that the problem is also, for us, to build a strong connection between parties and civil society. In the next month, we will have very important appointment, demonstration in Frankfurt against the Eurotower, like World Social Forum in Tunisia. It's very hard to join them. Last thing I want to say is the necessity to make the southern issue that Antonio Gramsci thought out a national issue to become a continental issue. I think that we don't not only share problems, but also programs for Europe, and it's very important that the Southern Europe, Mediterranean Europe, will be able to strengthen its connection and its proposal.
Y ya por último,
and last but not least, I'm going to give the floor to the former Secretary General of the Education Commission of Comisiones Obreras, Fernando Lezcano, who's made a great effort to be here with us. So I've punished him, and I've left him to be the last one to take the floor. Good evening. I would like only to convey a brief message on behalf of Comisiones Obreras, represented by myself and Joan Carlos Gallego, General Secretary of Comisiones Obreras in Catalonia. It is a short message, simple one, and maybe it's a double message. It's a message present. I would like to talk about present concerning the ideal of the European construction. We share values, we share the view of the situation, and we share proposals. We think that capital is being recomposed by a of a labor income from labor to capital by means of austerity, because austerity is this, from labor to capital, that we can see it in the debt prepayment, we can see it in the labor conditions right now, and the dismantling of the protection in the welfare state. And this is so important that it's done through an ideological domination and repression, because it's Incident that the first reform was the labor reform, and the latest one, the one concerning the penal code. 300 trade unionists from and another trade union to be taken to court for taking part in demonstrations. Conflict have been seen in the street, and now we have the opportunity to vote. We share present time, we share ideals, we share proposals, and from Sunday on, I would like to share with you also the future. Like to thank the President Joan Gallego from Comisiones Catalonia, and Jose Maria Alvarez from the UGT in Catalonia also. So here we've made an agreement, and we've said that we are not going to talk for the last 5 minutes. However, like if you before the meeting, political rally, let's say we'll have a break for 15 minutes, and I could like to give you a which is that Pierre Laurent won't be here, the General Secretary of the Community, because on to the airport, and I know it's true, and there was overbooking in the plane. So we are going to think what we do for the political rally, Marisa and myself. If we are going to think what we do, if we give the floor to colleagues, to other colleagues. Unfortunately, for the party, for the left European party, it was very important for us that together with Monica, we had with us Pierre with us. So I would like to thank you all for being here. And I hope tomorrow we can have a debate with you and not just among people on. Thank you very much. And 7:15 German time will start. 7:15 sharp. Thank you very much.
Sí. Sí, un poco más de red. Vale, dime. ¿Toco acá y ya está? ¿Toco acá y ya está? ¿En este lugar? ¿En este punto y ya está? No escucho nada, no escucho nada. Suena la... Vivo en un te puede servir en este instante y soy feliz porque soy gigante. Amo a una mujer clara que amo y me ama sin pedir nada. Casi nada que no es lo mismo, pero es igual. Fuera poco, tengo mis cantos con el cuadro un hombre de... Soy feliz, soy un hombre feliz y quiero que me perdonen los muertos. Felicidad. Soy feliz, soy un hombre feliz y quiero que me perdonen. En este día, los muertos de mi felicidad. Poco, tengo un que poco a poco te quiero que me los muertos de mi felicidad.
Seient, sisplau, i demanarien Noet, en Terra, la Mònica i les famílies que s'apropessin.
We would ask Joan, Cayo, Terra to come to the stage.
Està a punt d'arribar. Mira-la. La xica, una xica griega. Estàvem fotent conya ara.
Mira-la, mira-la. Perdona. No, però una cosa és ser actor i l'altra cosa és tapar la càmera. Ah, sí? Hòstia, que putada.
Espera, que està la càmera.
I si estem ja quasi davant, perfecte, dius tu. Si estem acabant el dos. Bueno, ja està, no?
Bé, bona tarda a tots i a totes. Ja anem a començar la política del dia. On intervindran en Joan Josep Nuet, en nom d'Esquerra Unida Alternativa, en Joan Herrera, en nom d'Iniciativa per Catalunya Verds, en Caio Lara, en nom d'Izquierda Unida, la Terra Friedrich, que se'ns donarà una salutació per part del Partit dels Treballadors i de Paulo, la Mònica Frassoni, en nom del Partit Verd Europeu, havia d'acompanyar-nos en nom del Partit de l'Esquerra, però desafortunadament ha tingut un problema amb el Bori, no ens acompanyarà, i tancarà l'acte en nom de Sirisa, el Yanis Milios, el qual ja heu tingut l'oportunitat d'escoltar abans. Així que sense més, li dono la paraula al coordinador general d'Esquerra Unida Alternativa, Joan Josep.
Bé, companyes i companys.
Agafo la paraula i començo repetint el que deia abans. Avui la gent de Barcelona, la gent de Catalunya, la gent d'Iniciativa, la gent
d'Esquerra Unida, we are very happy. Barcelona becomes the capital of the south of Europe. Happy to host so many things. Green, red alternatives, especially from the south of Europe, also from the north. Happy that social organizations, social movements, activists of all type are here today in Barcelona, given this first forum of the south of Europe. I was joking before, saying we have made a salad because there is a lot of everything here. There are some people that I have to remind you that we've been fighting, but happily we've learned from history, and for the first time today, the Greens, the Reds, and the alternatives of the left of the are hand in hand. And today we start the change. This event We've done it for many reasons. First, because we are going to black a series of proposals which will help us to have a coherent speech and a project which is built from the experience of Europe, but it's not in the south of Europe, wants to change the whole of Europe. And this alternative model, the Troika, is developing for the European project. Therefore, today, we are gathering strength, and besides making proposals, we are becoming strong in our moral, our will, our decisions. We start a change here in Barcelona, but in 48 hours in different places of Barcelona and Catalonia, we will be opening our cava bottles because Syriza will have won the elections.
Amics i amics,
And many of us, one day we would be living a year in which transformation is possible. And transformation will start in 48 hours in Greece, and then it will continue. And let's see if we have to fight in the parliament here. And in May, we are going to take Barcelona with the place in the general, in the regional government. Rajoy and Mas are the problem, and we are the alternative, as well as you. South of the change, and as I was saying before, we are putting forward proposals. We are going to choose. We are going to choose be part of the change. Sometimes maybe we feel fear. We don't have to doubt. We have to participate in the change. We are change. No about this. And in Europe, we are going to be in transparency or democracy, going to allow that a treaty is negotiated with the state and labor rights. This is not democracy that we cannot allow to happen. We want to know what's being negotiated in the name of Europe. And are we going to allow to have 20 million unemployed people in Europe, and that the social project that is damaged by this kind of Europe? And a process in distribution of Catalan people to. And I finished in Greece a long time ago. In 2 days, democracy will boost, and Troika is shaking, Mas is shaking, Trias is shaking, Rajoy is shaking, and we are very happy. I'll leave you with our friend and colleague, Joan Herrera. Good evening to all of a great number of people from different movements, different parties, and I would like to thank you for being here. Javi Lopez, the Socialist MP, is here, and I would also people coming from socialist parties such as Vallès or Balcells. I would like to say thank Paul Vilches and David, who come from Majorca Islands, the Balearic Islands, or Juan Carlos from the Xunta Aragos. People coming from other places. Going to talk about Brazil, but we have people, Pueblo Democrático from Colombia, and people who live close to us and with whom I can see here faces of flauters who are working really hard to defend our rights. Feminists are here saying that women cannot bear the burden of all cuts. Also from Platform for Public Transportation, or Luis Blanco from Ayat, who's with us, an activist from the education field, such as Rosa Canadell, or I see here representative from the labor, and I'm happy to have here with us Pepe Alvarez and Juan Carlos Gallego, or when I see people the neighbor movement helping the city and the neighbors to move forward, represent policy and street, movement and citizenship. This is what unites us. And we are people from the left movements, from the green movements, progressive people, social agents, social actors, but we are, before all of these, citizens. We are citizens of Europe, from a country, Catalonia, which is in the south of Europe, as Spain, as Italy is in the south, as Portugal, as Greece, as France. We are in a Europe when democracy, and we are citizens. We are, as I say, from the left green movement, and we're told before that the social contract was compatible with democracy, and now we are. What do we do? That's the question. And I cannot bring myself to that the education of my child will be better according to the money I can pay. That if my father is sick, will have better care if I pay. I believe that we have to choose between being a poor worker because we are badly paid, or being unemployed, or going abroad. I can bring myself to believe that when I see someone sleeping in the street, so with Aleka in the Thessaloniki streets, turn my eyes and think that this is not business. No, I can't believe this. Democracy and social rights are compatible, and we have to fight for this. And as we are European citizens, and particularly from the south of Europe, and in the south of Europe, we are told that we are going to suffer for generations. What we say is, let's walk together. We have the fiscal compact, obligation to repay the debt. As we have to repay the debt, and this is the priority thanks to the 135 of the Constitution, who put the banks before people, then it's the perfect excuse to monitor our life and make business out of rights. European citizens from the left, green movement, what we say is we must say no. We have to put forward democracy. We cannot accept the plutocracy where markets lead. We are not accept to have our cut. And we, as it has happened here in Spain, where sometimes we cannot express we're going to become goods. This is what Samara, Rajoy, or mass government are doing. Social France right now policies that follow austerity, because what we are going to do is to impose fear, not doing anything. What we walk together, and have coordination among us to go further away, to find European solutions and think big together in order to understand that there are solutions only in Catalonia, Spain, or Greece, that solutions are collective, are shared, and we have to think big and think Europe. We want to look at the world, and we can see that the inequality is increasing in all continents. There is place where inequality is reducing. This is in Latin America. And we have to ask ourselves what has happened there. I think we have to be clear. In Latin America, the social movement understood it to claim back policies, and they did it at the end of the 19th. And the Forum, where we have PT, people from Cuba, from Chile, left socialists, and people representing Evo Morales. They understood that they had to work together despite the differences, and they understood that they had to recognize the legitimacy of the other, that they needed to work together to transform the reality. And Latin America is the only place where inequalities are being reduced. And the question is, what are we doing in Europe? Do we walk apart? Political families continue their own way? Let's build a common space where we can work together. But, you know, our rights are not respected. And we have to react, to respond. We have to claim back democracy. But we are not from Latin America. We are Europeans. And what we have to say is that Europe and the south of Europe, well, democracy was conquered, was not a given. Sometimes here it is as if democracy after when it was conquered in the street, when we achieve it thanks to the fight of the workers, their children to go to university. Democracy was conquered fighting Franco, against Salazar, against the colonels, the dictatorship. And what we have to state that we conquered rights, and this is why they cannot be taken away from us. And we want to move forward. Equality in one of the biggest, of the most unequal societies within the societies in the Yanis has talked about this, restructuring, because it's fair, and not just the debt. We need the be also a possibility that is drowning us, and it seems that policies are dictated by. But when I say this, I'm told this is not possible. They cannot tell us that the debt is because of us. They cannot blame on us for the debt. The European Central Bank has been lending money at 0.5%, and then there was a parity between drachma, escudo, peseta, and Europe, thought to products and to over-indebt economies in the south of Europe. This is acceptable. The economy in the south of Europe 4-5%, and the interest rate of the European Central Bank was 1% in order to finance the growing of the German economy, while they were supporting 7 million workers in poverty. Today, to have a decent proposal in terms of debt, we have to work together, walk together. We have to fight together. And this is what we have to do in the present situation. Merkel has mentioned, as an example, Mariano Rajoy during these days. She has mentioned the Spanish case. And the Spanish case shows the impoverishment of popular working class. In the electrical sector, the monopoly in the financial sector from 2010, we lost 100 billion. We have done major works. Is this the example we have to follow? We have to say that there are alternatives, which is working together. In the center of Europe, and Rui was mentioning it, the center of Europe is in the Mediterranean, in the Ulysses Mediterranean that invented democracy is the one that has to claim back democracy. There is by Luis Llach that talks about the Greek boat, and it says, Greek boat that has the Greek boat, you have to move forward toward the port. Europe starts on Sunday in Greece. Democracy starts with an alternative, with hope. What we have to say is that starts in next municipal Barcelona is the capital of mobilizations against the war. It's one of the world capitals against war. Barcelona, from the municipal sector, has to be the space to claim back democracy. The challenge is to win, to defeat Samara, Trias. The challenge is to win on Sunday, in Barcelona in May, to win in Catalonia when we have elections in September. And what do we need? We need unity from plurality, the will to change things, unity, but only something we say and we don't practice. Unity to change from scratch the power structure that makes today that wealth is not redistributed and is concentrated in a few hands. So this is what we have to do. And today, hope is a day to do this, to build different views, the path in which we have to walk together. I think it's very important that we understand that elections are not chess games, are not places where we can put flags. Elections is when we celebrate elections, we stake the happiness of people. The happiness of people right now means to have a decent job. Happy when change things and they don't have to. Let's do it. What we propose is to do this at our own way, fighting against the market as the people who founded Europe did. This is the ones who fought against fascism, those who recovered democracy, and not the ones that, talking about democracy, what they do is to obey by the market. So thank you very much. And today, with unity, with ideas and the will to change, what we have to say is that on Sunday we will win, and in September we will win in Catalonia, telling the Troika, or Trias, Samaras, and Rajoy in Spain that they are not going to bend us. We are not going to obey the market. Thank you very much.
And now I give someone 6 days before his anniversary. Cayo Lara. His birthday is next Thursday, on the 29th of January. So besides him and congratulating me, because it's the same day, I give him the floor to my comrade and friend, Cayo Lara.
Cuando lleguemos al gobierno,
when we are part of the government, the first measure that we are going to pass is to prohibit to congratulate us on our birthday. I think in a place like this have some social trade union force, especially political forces of the whole of the European Union, the party of the European left. I think there is a doctrine to follow, and this is something I like to repeat. This is the key of many of the things that are happening and not precisely good things. Of course, everybody is going to remember that today's malaise comes from previous things, and this dust was the Washington Maastricht Treaty and the Lisbon Treaty. Those of you who are familiar with this know it, because you were there. They are here. They have arrived to make states weaker and democracy weaker, less state for a bigger market, to reduce public intervention, to deregulate the markets. Now, with the Treaty of Free Trade, let's see if we organize a strong campaign to explain what can happen with this, and less skepticism as we had with the Maastricht Treaty. Deregulation from the point of view of employment, flexibility, workers in the street, but workers who are on the street, there are other businessmen on the street, and when they apply the labor reform,
cuando aplican la reforma laboral hay un trabajador despedido, cientos o miles, 500.000 trabajadores despedidos que despiden con 20 días de despido y debían haberlo hecho, no deberían haberlo despedido, pero en todo caso deberían haber sido 45. Y la reforma laboral no despidos baratos para bajar después los salarios y tenernos en un país con un tercio de los contratos por debajo de los 145 euros.
And they say there are no social classes. Today I have which is Mondays in the sun. It says Mondays in the sun because in this country, this Catalonia, this Spain, this Europe, there are many millions of people who Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are in the sun, Saturday and Sunday also. And occasionally we have to think about this. We have to think about the principles. And sometimes we forget about this in the dynamics that we have. To privatize the public sector, AENA has been plundered. As we've said before, they plunder a company cost efficient to make it cost efficient for other people. They will continue doing business, and they will continue to the state as they've been doing. We have less and less state, less and less public companies, less public sector, less public banking. There was a lot of public banking in this country not long ago. So they play economic power. The economic power prevails. And they play with the political power. This has already been forecast in the Treaty of Maastricht. They explode the social state, they increase inequalities, and all this in order to save the oligarchy, the bank, financial powers, and the rich become richer and richer. This is a topic, and the poorer become poorer. We see the number of poor people in the streets. We don't have to ask crisis. We see it in the faces of people, unfortunately. Therefore, this is the roadmap. And this is the roadmap they're applying here in Spain, Italy, Portugal, some other places, worse, beyond the South problem, beyond the as we've been called, the countries of the South. And somebody was saying that before, it's not the North against the South. There's in the North, working class in the South, many youth in Germany, many youth. We cannot forget this because this is very important to know. Said that, let me tell you three brief, quick things. Deficit, debt, BC plan, and investment plan. Just general reflection on deficit. If we enter more money than the one we spend, we have more debt. How do we solve deficit? There are two ways of solving deficits. First, with bigger income, and then with austerity measures. and the bigger measures can be complemented with employment policies and more income for public income. In 2008, Zapatero was already saying that he didn't know what to do with so much money. 20,000 millions of superávit, he didn't know what to do with so much money. So there are two ways of doing it. And the neoliberal policies have decided that the formula is austerity and policies. And they have decided that in this country, 80,000 million euros, aid of fiscal fraud. And these governments, they don't want to touch them. And yesterday we learned that the international companies in 2017 are going to be obliged to tell us how much they pay in the countries they operate, not only as. So this is what we are doing with international companies. So there is fiscal fraud. We didn't want to fight against this, so there are no income. And those who are they're cheating all of us. They're cheating our social state, our pensions, health, education, and cheat our lifestyle. They do not fulfill the fiscal regulations that we have, and they're not persecuted by governments. Aren't they people who do not fulfill their obligations? So each one of us should pay according to what we have and according to what we earn. Is this a barbarity? Is this a revolution? Or is just applying many of the laws that we have as far as taxes? Spain, 31. Spanish Constitution says so. And fiscal justice. But here we opted for austerity, low wages, and economic worsening of the situation. This is why they apply the labor reform. And the Constitutional Court, with the president who inspired the reform, had just supported the labor reform. So we are fucked up. And if we to do in the next government, if we have a parliamentary majority, enough. This is our compromise, and the first thing we will have to do will be to cancel the reforms. Debt. We should audit debt. We have to cancel debt. We have to restructure debt, and we have to face the interest of debt without going into default. We can do it. Well, I think we can do it. It's a question of political will. And for this, and this is included in the Barcelona Declaration, we will talk about the need to celebrate a European conference on debt, because debt is drowning us. Greece cannot have 77% of gross domestic product of debt. It's impossible that this country. It's not possible. But those who have this debt, some of them are banks. European Central Bank gave money to one of them to buy debt 5, 6, and this is how we pay the interest of the debt. They have to think that they are in risk operation. When they invest, don't they have any risk? Risk-free economy, isn't it? And this is why they have to understand that there is risk when they invest in secure debt. But if they take away health, education, and food, we will have to celebrate a debate with those who give us debt. And we have to have accounts, because if we have a big debt and we have deficit, well, they will say, we're waiting for you. So we have to break this deficit. We have to end with deficit in order to have political independence. And this is not the barbarity in some of the countries where we do not have a very high deficit right now. And this is something we can do, and we have to do. And we have to say that the interest is what is collected by some of them call us cost efficiency, speculation, no matter what. But the truth is that in this country, we're paying 36,000 million euros of interest to some people who money, 36 million. 100 million euros per day, which is the cost of building a hospital 500 beds, with 36,000 millions. If we didn't have to pay the interest, we can create 2 billion jobs every year. And if we created 2 million jobs, don't you think we will have a takeoff of the conditions in order to pay the main part of the debt, if we have a moratorium and restructuring of debt? Don't you be members more able to pay? Why don't we face this problem of the interest of debt? I think we can do it, and I think this is a pending subject. And also, to adopt, and many people are going to about this in Greece. We will have the opportunity to put this into practice. But now they will have to go back, and we will have to express our solidarity in order for this country to take off. But there are other things. The European Central Bank, in the end, is going to buy debt in secondary markets. More than 1 billion euros, more than the gross domestic product of Spain, is going to buy debt in secondary markets, and this can cause many things. Where was the European Central Bank before? Were they lending money to the speculators so they can speculate with the states and the suffering of people? It's not our bank, still not our bank. Someone who was not chosen by us is going to invest 1.14 million euros in the secondary. But in theory, all this should aim at the lowering of interest rate, flow of credit, so companies have credit. Central bank, bankers, investors will have more money and they will have to invest. This is the theory they have. And the third one, they will have to lower the interest of the mortgages. In Spain and in Catalonia, there are many people right now who have a mortgage and they won't be able to pay. Evictions continue. The evolution of the bubble, why people have such a big mortgage. People are evicted because the conditions were already created and this could be facilitated. But this is what we want. We want a public bank. We defend the public bank. And we had Argentaria, we had the credit bank, we had the industrial credit bank. Bank in this country. Why cannot we have public bank here and in the rest of the countries? Well, with the of the market. Well, let's compete in the free economy with the public bank. And in Andalusia, we have a very small government, and we are questioned because we are in the government as part of society. It's one say whatever they want with this little bit of power. We've thought about this public bank. I don't know if this is going to happen with the Bank of Spain. Well, here is the real power in the banking system. Part of this country, 8 million people. This idea can be replicated everywhere else. And they tried to approve a law to avoid evictions, but the power non-power move and made the government go to the court, and people are still evicted from their homes. This is the power. The government of Catalonia is in crisis. It seems they're going to call elections. One colleague from Andalusia was saying that today they have just passed the law of historical memory in and a law defending the consumers in Andalusia, and the law of memory cause a judge to lose his job. And when we have this type of power, is that we are applying things that we don't like. That's why we theorize that one thing is government and another one is power. We could have Syriza can opt for government. Power is power. And this is why we need lots of solidarity, because they are going to find many obstacles in order to avoid the projection of a project which can be and extended to the rest of the European countries. That's why they need our solidarity. And finally, let me tell you that an investment plan, we want this investment plan of the European Confederation of Trade Unions, 2% of gross domestic product, investment, European Bank of Investment, 10 years, 11 million employees, jobs, sorry. That's impossible. There's 1 billion euros of the European Union going to fiscal paradise. We don't want to join the Juncker plan. We want the European plan of trade unions. With these 4 proposals, for sure we can start building a different Europe. With many more, but with these 3, we can create a different Europe. So the of fundamental rights. It's like this. It's a format. It's not so small, of course. This European Charter was published by the European Union. And it says, and I'm talking about fundamental rights. We don't have it in our Constitution. The Article 15 says professional freedom and the right to work. Everybody has the right to work and to have the profession they have chosen. This is what the European Charter of Rights says. People don't fulfill this. Million unemployed do not fulfill with these conditions. And this is written on the papers, but it's just a theory. So we have lots of things to do. We can do it with the laws that we have right now, but, and let me conclude with this, it's difficult for the left to organize ourselves. And it's difficult to work united. And we are the best. And we disagree when we have small elements to disagree. And the political and economic right, because the left exists and the right exists, they understand themselves with economic data immediately. Of course, they have the privatization of AENA. Who will have this 28%, 26% of the privatization? They have discussed who takes it, but they agree quickly. But we in the left, we have problems to decide. And this is what we are doing. When I see so many parties, so much plurality, we agree against something, but we have to understand each other. We are building, trying to build this, and there is no reason to avoid or make us not to apply this in our country. So we are at the time of autonomous and general elections. We can think the government, we can change the country, but we have to think about convergence and the unity of the left. Otherwise, we will make a mistake once again, and then the right will win again, somehow, because they have a lot of power. Therefore, the reflection we should take into account. And it's difficult to, but we have to make the effort to do it, because this is our obligation as men, women of the left. It's not impossible. They have to win, and if they win, they should not fail, because otherwise it will be frustrating, not only for Greece, but for the rest of Europe. That's why we have to help, with all the nuances, with all the differences, with the differences that we have with Syriza, or with any other political powers which can help us to change Greece, because this is much more important. This has much more value than the power we are facing in Greece. Therefore, this is the last message I want to launch. And let me conclude that time for programs, time for hope, time being enthusiastic, but time not to deceive people. Therefore, the program to elaborate in the next elections have to be serious, rigorous programs, something which can be applied the day after winning the election. We cannot allow ourselves the luxury of deceiving or cheating people like the government of Rajoy has done. They promise one thing and nothing happens. The left cannot deceive the working class, social majority. And if we cannot apply a specific measure because the power is very strong, we have to organize ourselves in order to defend the government. We have to tell people why we cannot apply this. We have to explain it. That the working class should receive the truth. Therefore, go ahead. Lots of hope. Hard working. collective working, collective thinking. Good luck, bad luck, but we work a lot. We are not very lucky. It's not a question of luck. It's a question of working hard, although we don't conquer what we want to conquer at the specific moments. Therefore, let's apply the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. This could be a good conclusion of this Declaration of Barcelona. So that's all. So I now go with my Mars and Mondays, and I give the floor to Terra Friedrich, Workers' Party of Brazil. And
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for having invited and excuse myself because I'm going to mix Portuguese and Spanish. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I would like to share a message of enthusiasm and solidarity with that is taking place in the countries of Europe, the most affected by the crisis. I come from Brazil. In Brazil and in other countries in Latin America, we during the 90s the same measures and the same effects of neoliberal policies of the Washington Consensus that were implemented in Latin America, in Brazil and in other countries. So we went through privatization, wages cuts, the reduction of the state role and public policies, public spending cutbacks. So we experienced that. This is why I think it's important to mention the experience we have. In Brazil, with the government led by the Workers' Party, we had the experience of changing a little bit the reality by reducing inequalities with 42 million people, creating 20 million jobs. But this wasn't only in Brazil. It took place also in other countries in Latin America with a different history. In other countries, the left governments that belong to the political family, the same political family. So we went through a very interesting experience of changing the situation despite the differences. So we were able to change and move forward. And this didn't happen only to individual countries. It happened also at the regional level, because together with these neoliberal policies for each country, there was in the 90s a project of building an area of free trade of the Americas, which was a little bit similar to what's being negotiated between the European Union and the States, the TTIP. So this of the free trade was a neoliberal project for Latin America and the American continent. So the failure of this project was due to the mobilization of the left parties, the social movement, the trade unions, of a wide coalitions of forces and social organizations, environmental organizations, that saw in this project of the free trade of the Americas, so that this was going to be the neoliberal project with a lot of impact in the continent. So there was a strong mobilization. We celebrate the 10th years of the failure of the negotiations for the ALCA. So this was a historical moment. This happened when there were changes in government. We had Chavez in Venezuela, but then Lula took the power in Brazil, in Uruguay, in Argentina as well. So this popular social coalition, democratic coalitions of the society, together with the government, the political change in the government, this was the key for the success of all this movement that meant the failure of the neoliberal project for Latin America. This is why I think it's important. I wanted to share this point because I think we have things in common. There are fights that are similar. And to conclude, I want to read the greetings of the Sao Paulo Forum for this first forum for the south of Europe. So I'm going to read the greetings. Alexis Tsipras, President of Syriza, Cayo Lara, General Coordinator of Izquierda, and Joan Herrera, President of the Parliamentary Group Iniciativa, Izquierda Unida y Alternativa. Dear colleagues, the working group of the Sao Paulo Forum greets the organization of the first southern countries on the 23rd and 24th of January in Barcelona and all its participants. The crisis, which started in 2008 and was crisis imposed by the financial capital, made the population suffer a lot, with higher unemployment, bigger inequalities, and cutting of public spending. Our organization has always stated that the crisis shouldn't affect that much the population, but instead of this, have a stronger Europe, but the Europe of the population. We celebrate the organization of this first forum, and we wish you the ability to up alliances among the countries affected by the crisis in neoliberal policies. All the best and all the success for you. Regards, working group of the Sao Paulo Forum. And finally, I would like to of PT Brazil to tell my hope for the victory of Syriza on Sunday. When this will be mean a change in the history of Europe. So I would only like to say that we are with you and we will celebrate Syriza's victory on Sunday. Now I'll give the floor to Monica Frassoli.
Buonasera.
Good evening. Before starting speaking, to speak on behalf of Pierre Laurent, who is the president of the European left. I don't know if this is possible. I think that what Joan has said in his speech about the great diversity of movement people that we have here, I don't think it's necessary I speak on behalf of Laurent. In the left-green party, we are happy because we of an alternative, and we want to be an alternative to the policies and people who are ruling the continent and many countries in Europe. Personally, this is my liberal side. I don't believe in the oligarchy complot, or let's say that I don't only believe in the complot of German bad oligarchies. That we have a real problem of our proposal, and we have a problem also of capacity to connect to consent, because otherwise we cannot, because otherwise our proposals, and we've been listening to our proposals, they are strong, they are coherent, they are logical, they are easy to implement, but so far our proposals haven't been implemented. And even if we like to be plural, we don't want to be authoritarian. Well, the problem of powers, fighting other powers, have to be also our problem. I agree with Cayo Lara when he said that there is a powerful ruling class. Our role is to reach power, not make opposition, with good proposals, and I'm going to deal with the three main questions I think we can contribute to this debate. But beyond good proposals, we have to have a real action plan. Today, 23rd of January, what's the first point? Well, the first and the most urgent is that on Sunday, when Syriza wins the election, it has to be clear that they are not alone in Europe. And I would like to say it right away, and it's not because I agree with everything that Syriza says. I would like them to be greener. And in fact, maybe now they are going to be. But this is not the question. The issue is to create a correlation of alternative powers where we have people that think like us and that they are power. And we, from outside the government, because the vast majority of us are not part of the government, we have to create a situation by which at least some national governments, including France and the government of the South, can contribute to implement all those proposals we're listening to, and particularly the debt. And I would like to talk how we are going to explain to Germans about the conference on the debt, because we have to be clear. We cannot celebrate this conference without having a majority in the European Parliament, without having a little bit of support from the committee, having only a conference with Syriza. So I think how are we going to prevent Syriza from being isolated? This is something that we have to think carefully about. This is important, and particularly in the European institutions we work, and sometimes we consider them as boring. This is not true, because many battles concerning democracy and environment were fought and were won in these European institutions. I really like when Laia talk about the alternative narrative, and I think that an alternative narrative for the left, for the Greens, it hasn't to be sad. It has to be a recipe for happiness and for joy. And Syriza will win for this reason, because they have had the capacity to hope that maybe we in other countries in the south of Europe, we haven't been able to provide. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had Berlusconi for 20 years in Italy or other things we don't like. And I will insist on this alternative narrative, which is valid in the north and in the south. And Caio Lara has mentioned it. If it's true that in Italy we are country in terms of poor workers, well, Germany is the second country. So I'm happy to be here among people from the south, but I'm not periphery, and I want to discuss with my colleagues from the north, and it's something that we do with quite a success in the European Green Party. Three more things, quickly. I think that the recipe that we mentioned, and sometimes our colleagues from the left say, oh, Monica, but this green thing, it's not so important. What's important is employment. Some friends during the campaign, the political campaign, say, well, what's important is job creation. And I think that the real green left Europe put right in the center the Green New Deal, not because it's something beautiful, because we are going to save trees, but because this is the political industrial option which is feasible for Europe. We don't have oil, or not a lot of oil. We have wind, we have sun, and we have we've got workers, we've got builders that can invest in these technologies that are outdated technologies. These technologies are a new economy which is environmentally friendly. I think that some options that some governments are implementing, Hollande, for instance, the Paris summit took place in Paris, said he was not going to subsidize coal exploitation and export, but today he changed his mind and said he's going to carry nuclear plants. These kind of things, not right. These are important for our recovery and to get out of crisis. And I think that we have to move beyond and move further than what's proposed by our colleagues from the north. Habermas talked about the transnationalization of democracy. I think this is very important. We have to talk about democracy in Europe. I think that the value of the European Union, of democracy, of what our ancestors did in the past, well, all this is reflected in the people demonstrating in Paris, people who have died in the Mediterranean Sea, the capacity of our young people that can have a future in their own country. I think that the proposals, as I said, are good, but if we can invest in the European dream, I think that we can provide an answer and try to attract those who want people and cultures. I think that we can show that this kind of recipes can be winning recipes, but new borders, preventing people from work, preventing the cultural exchange is not a recipe that is going to be successful or is going to get us out of the crisis. And I think that we left parties have to say this, because this is green and this is leftist. And now I would like to invite Yanis Milos, because he is going to tell something, how we can win. He's going to show us how we can win.
Στις 20 Ιανουαρίου, ένας αστεροειδής θα περάσει κοντά στη Γη. Ο ήλιος θα ανακύλει στις 34. Τα μαγαζιά και τράπεζες θα ανοίξουν μετά τις 8. Οι γονείς θα συνεχίσουν να ανησυχούν για τους βαθμούς των παιδιών, αλλά καμία οικογένεια δεν βρεθεί στον δρόμο. Στις 26 Ιανουαρίου οι μηχανές παίρνουν εμπρός και η κοινωνία στέκεται ορθή. Αρχίζουμε διαραγματική διαπραγμάτευση. Χαράζουμε νέα πορεία. Στις 26 Ιανουαρίου η Ελλάδα θα είναι μια χώρα με ελπίδα για όλους. ΣΥΡΙΖΑ.
Dear comrades and friends, as you very well know, we came here, we are among you as heralds of good news. Next Sunday, on the 25th of January, we are going to win the elections and form the first left government in our country since the end of the war.
Queridos camaradas, queridos amigos, hemos venido aquí en representación de todos los griegos para daros una muy buena noticia. El próximo 25 de enero vamos a ganar las elecciones, por primera vez desde la guerra.
A very difficult task. We have the duty to combat the humanitarian crisis and the enormous unemployment that extreme policies have caused.
Ante nosotros tenemos una obligación. Tenemos que luchar para combatir la crisis humanitaria y el desempleo, una tasa de desempleo enorme impuesta por extremas políticas de austeridad.
We have the duty to guarantee social cohesion, to give people the rights to restore the dignity of the working class, to bargain collectively with the employers.
Es nuestra obligación garantizar la cohesión social, a los pueblos sus derechos, restaurar la capacidad de la clase trabajadora para negociar colectivamente con los empleadores.
We have the duty to introduce for the first time a just and redistributive tax system so that the social state will be financed by the ones who can pay.
Tenemos la obligación de introducir por primera vez un sistema distributivo y justo, de manera que el social sea financiado por aquellos que
We have the duty to fight corruption, tax evasion, petroleum product smuggling, to protect the rule of law.
Tenemos la obligación también de luchar contra la corrupción, la evasión fiscal, el contrabando de productos de petróleo y proteger la jurisprudencia.
We have the duty to reform the state, to transparency, meritocracy and justice.
Es nuestra obligación reformar el Estado, restablecer la transparencia, la meritocracia y la justicia.
After 5 years of extreme neoliberal austerity, nearly 60% of young Greeks have no job. This means we will take over the government in a situation of exception in order to put an end to a social disaster.
Tras 5 años de políticas extremas de austeridad neoliberal, casi el 60% de los jóvenes griegos carecen de empleo. Esto significa que accederemos al gobierno en una situación excepcional para poder acabar con este desastre social.
Prerequisite for the success program is the deepening of democracy, the introduction of new participative framework, our ability to direct democracy.
Un prerequisito fundamental para el éxito de nuestro programa es profundizar en el concepto de democracia, la introducción de un nuevo marco participativo y nuestra capacidad de promover formas de democracia directa.
In order to succeed in our goals, in order to initiate the process of change to the benefit of many, in order that a democratic and cohesive Europe is possible, we need not the Greek social majority, but also of the European peoples, of all left and progressive forces in Europe.
Para conseguir llevar a cabo estos objetivos con éxito, para poder iniciar la introducción del cambio social en beneficio de la mayoría, para demostrar que una sociedad cohesionada y democrática es posible, necesitamos el apoyo continuo no solamente de la mayoría social griega, sino también de todos los pueblos europeos, de todas las fuerzas de izquierda y progresivas de Europa.
We need the unity and the support of the left all over Europe.
Necesitamos la unidad de la izquierda plural de España y del resto.
Comrades, we count on your support. Our struggle is that the Compañeros y compañeras, las elecciones del 25 de
Colleagues, the elections on the 25th of January, it's not just a matter of Greece, but affects the future of all together. We are going to choose social justice or inequality and poverty, democracy or dictatorship of the market. We have to express our unity, our power in front of blackmails. We Greeks have to do the first step, have to take the first step in order dreams come true. Because another world it's possible. Because now it's of people. People united will never be defeated. To the victory always.
Aquest any serà complicat. Molt. Bueno, a veure quan tornes a venir per allà. Aquest any anem a... És que... Per què no venim nosaltres? Perquè tenim una obra... No, ja ho vam fer l'any passat. Una obra nova. Anem a Sant Andreu aquest any de fer-la. 14 d'abril. Bueno, anem a 7 o 8 llocs, però el que munta sol per món és a Sant Andreu.